Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Let me make sure my sound is working. Oh, my microphone went and turned itself all the way up, which I suppose is better than turning itself off. Hello, lovely to see you all. It's just me today, at least so far. Our dear friend Lil is still recovering, and Kelly is off saving the world, as she often does. But other people may pop in. One never knows. In any case, thank you all so much for joining. It's been a time, as many of you know, this past week has been extremely rough, and there's many things. But on the plus side, I wasn't really able to sleep last night, partly because it's extremely fucking cold here, and partly because of the stress of ongoing nonsense. And so I finished a book, this book that the wonderful Miranda sent me, along with this wonderful scarf, by the way, which I very much appreciate. I have a very hard time finding time to read physical books because every waking moment I'm working. But I did finish it this morning, and I'm glad I did. I read most of it while my son was in the emergency room a few days ago, and I read the rest of it this morning. Where it left off, things were awfully dark because we were moving into the resolution part of the story. So of course things looked awfully dark. And there's a lot about this book that's wonderful. It's relatively short. It's written such that perhaps middle schoolers would understand it and high schoolers could fully engage with it. It's not like super sophisticated reading, but it's written in this not exactly the style of the old epic sagas, but similar. It echoes in some ways, it resonates in some ways. But also there's some interesting ways that the story, it's called The Four Profound Weaves, and it's about a family of weavers and their magical skills, and also other people's magical skills to make other things. It's about creation, except there's one person in the story who refuses change. He does not create, and so as a consequence causes death. And it's a fascinating tale. But the one thing that I really wanted to make a note to talk to y'all about was there's a passage, and it doesn't spoil the ending to say so, but there's a passage later on where the two main characters are talking to each other, and they discover in the process of honoring some of the dead, they're telling their stories, helping them speak now that they're gone, and they say, tell your story. As long as your voice is heard, none can claim you didn't exist. And that really touched me because given the events of the past week, I had been moving very much towards shutting down and putting forward only the persona, the excitable version of Ember, the mask over my emotions or lack thereof, in order to do this. Now, that's a facet of me. It's not a fake person. It's just letting only one side of myself be seen. With this thoughtful whole milieu of ideas in mind, stewing, weaving away, and that thought to cap it off, it reminded me that one of the main reasons I'm here is to tell my story, not just for me, but for other people who can see themselves and don't see anyone else like them in real life around them. The reason I started this channel is because I didn't know any other atheists. It's a very isolating experience. A lot of other people didn't know any other atheists. And so while I'm not the first to stand up and use my voice, to borrow from John Gleason, the Godless Engineer, he made his channel for exactly the same reason, so that other people who wouldn't feel so damn alone. They'd know they were other people. And while I'd always presented as non-binary, I didn't really argue with people about my gender until I started an actual transition. And then it became even more important to stand up and be visible. Because while there are a lot of trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming people of various kinds visible on the internet today, with the political situation, shall we say, it's become even more important for those of us who can be visible to be visible for the people who can't, because we all feel very alone these days. And the same is true for every other part of my story, from surviving various assaults of various kinds and being intersex. That's one that's a little harder to find online these days, and everything else. But none of our stories are just the things that have happened to us. I want to make that very clear. And this is why I say, as long as your voice is heard, none can claim you did not exist. Because more than anything, I want everyone to internalize the fact that you are not what has happened to you. You are not your experiences. You are what you do with your potential, the choices you make and the actions you take. That's your story. That's your voice. You don't have to be a member of some minority or some oppressed group or some philosophical debate me bro club or whatever. The person you are matters. The choices you make matters, and the things you do can make a gigantic difference in this world. And I'm really, really thankful that this book helped me form together the words to weave that statement so that I could encourage everybody once again to stand up and use your voice. So that's my main opening note for today. Thank you all so much for joining. Yeah, there's I see everybody in the live chat. It's wonderful to see you all. Ryan had an announcement, but I lost track of it. She wanted to say there it is. A short from the interview with Jason from Dragons and Genesis is premiering on her channel, A Goddess, at 2 p.m. Eastern. She forgot to mention it on her show, so I'll mention it on my show because that's what we do. Among other things, I suppose. Let's see. Slick and Slaylicious sent us a super chat for 1999 saying fan character sending hearts with their it's a sticker. It's a super sticker. Okay. It's so weird that it describes it as if it were a person saying something. But thank you. I appreciate it. Oh goodness. And I appreciate all you folks too. As you can tell, I am starting to feel better about things, even though I'm still getting harassment and threats and worse. My skin has been thickening up, and I'm really, really glad that even though I'm still recovering from that nonsense, it's not hardening my heart in the way that I thought it would. And I'm really grateful for all of you for that. You folks here, the people who've reached out to me, who are talking to me in message groups or on Facebook or whatever the case may be. It's that connection with other people that kept me from feeling like I had to close up. Because that wasn't a me that I wanted to be. That was who Past Ember had to be. And I didn't like being Past Ember. Okay, Advent, Atheist Advent. We are on day, what is it, 17? Holy shit, this month is moving. All right, so we have an actual Advent calendar. For those of you joining us for the first time, do hit the subscribe button. We'd, join us for future shows. It'd be pretty neat. And we've got an actual Advent calendar with random geology. So let's have a peek at what today's stone is. I peeled the day came off, but the door didn't open. Maybe there is no stone today. Oh goodness. Okay. Come here. I can almost. There we go. Okay. It is a one of this. Maybe the thing will focus. Maybe. It's so white. I know it's hard to see with the contrast issues. I guess you'll have to take my word for it that it's white with some lines. You can see some of them. It's pretty neat. This one is easy to identify. It is. I still can't read this damn thing. Howlite. Howlite is a calcium homosilicate, hydrosilicate, something like that. It's a mineral that crystallizes in the form of masses, whatever that means. These descriptions are awful. But hey, that's our rock for the day. Once again, random geology. At the end of the month, well, at the end of the calendar, probably on the 25th, because the calendar goes to the 24th, we'll whenever we can, we'll look at all the rocks and actually look up the real descriptions, because that thing is just terrible. My goodness. Okay, in the meantime, Geo Sam sends us a super chat for $10. Thank you. And says, Geo Sam, by the way, recently became a member of Cinder. So when I record the closing credits at the end of this month, GeoSam will be on the credits. And if you'd like to be on the credits too, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can join on YouTube at the Cinder level as an membership member, and that includes all the emojis, the other perks, the member exclusive content, the members only live stream, which I think I've scheduled for tomorrow. There's a bunch of stuff. Cinders get all of it, including the shout out in the credits. Or you can join Patreon, which I just include all the Patreon supporters because YouTube takes a huge chunk out of everything you guys send. I appreciate it very much, but a lot of it goes to YouTube. Patreon takes some, but it's much, much less. And so more of it makes it to me. So I just include all the Patreon members because the lowest tier on Patreon is almost the same as the amount I get from the top level here on YouTube. Because Google, whatever. But I do however you support, I very much appreciate it. And GeoSam says, I've experienced a type of invisibility that often comes with growing old, and it doesn't feel very nice. That's understandable. I've noticed that when I was young, that a lot of old people mostly got ignored. I didn't care for that because while some old people were grumpy and didn't like kids, some old people had the best fucking stories. And as I got older, I found I was not so inclined to age discrimination as many of my peers. Like, I don't know, I didn't think the older, Gen X people were cynical asses. They were fun. They knew how to party, And I didn't think the younger people were all ignorant dipshits. They had the spirit of rebellion. Basically, what I'm saying is everyone can go to a punk concert. All the good people are there, regardless of your age or social standing or whatever. It's just, but that's just me. And I don't know. Oh, Chrissy says, I must say, Amber, you're looking lovely today. Thank you. I can't say I feel that, but it's true. None of us are getting younger. But oh my goodness, I did. Okay, so I burned myself accidentally yesterday. It's not important. I burned myself accidentally, and I grabbed some aloe and I put it on the burn so that it wouldn't blister. And I managed to keep it from blistering. But while I was rubbing the aloe in, I remembered that I never remember to fucking moisturize. So I used my moisturizer, and maybe my face looks a little healthier today. I don't know, but I'm a silly bean. Such is life. But, it's something. Thank you. Okay, I think that's all the notes. Maybe I don't know. I can't remember. Our Bible verse for meditation upon today is heal the sick. So we're going to talk about germ theory. Now, in all honesty, I picked the topics first and then came up with the Bible verses, but whatever. We are doing germ theory today. So let's transform as the great sage Robert motherfucking Reed often says, and roll out. And if you haven't heard from Robert Reed, he's a fun dude too. At least he was the last I heard. That's one of the problems with the struggles of the past week is there's no way to know who is still a sane person, who is safe to be around, and who has joined the conspiracy cult and isn't. It's rough. It's very, very rough. And I know there's a lot of people who feel stuck in between. I can kind of understand, but at the same time, it's difficult because, like, when I see, I've seen stuff like this happen where, like, one person I consider a friend does a great deal of harm to another person I consider a friend. To me, because of my tism, there's and this person, there's right and wrong. And while I don't think there's any like objective morality or absolute right and wrong, because of my tism, I have these protocols in my head, these behavioral programs of what's acceptable and what isn't. And when someone crosses one of the uncrossable lines and hurts someone, I cannot consider that person to be a friend, even if they didn't attack me personally. And so I don't understand the people who say, I saw them hurt you and I know you're hurting, but I still want to be their friend. I don't get it. I don't understand, but that doesn't mean you're wrong to do that. I just want to throw that out there. Just because I don't understand doesn't mean it's wrong. And I get why people might feel that way, even if I don't understand the thinking behind it. Oh, goodness. However, we are joined by the one and only Kelly King, the atheist queen of Detroit, who still has a more fabulous hat than me for the holiday season.
This dollar store, Dollar Tree.
Oh, goodness.
Ball on a
have,
budget. It's a ball on a budget shirt.
I have cut it down because I had to unpile my dresser to find my fabulous scarf, which I will probably be wearing tomorrow.
Okay.
I just wanted to, wear the scarf Miranda sent today because I was going to talk about the book Miranda sent me. And also because this is the fact you can put jewelry on these things is fucking fabulous.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah. But while I was hunting that down, I did get to clear off that dresser, and my Santa hat is not on that thing, so it has to be in the bottom of my box of hats. So we're getting closer to finding the Santa hat.
So my job there is flannel day today.
Oh, nice, nice.
So I'm wearing flannel for this work thing. So I'm okay.
Yeah.
Doing that today. Yep.
All right. So before we get started, I'll put everybody back up. So because I love having y'all here. It truly is one of the delights of my life that so many people come and hang out with us to do this, to make this show. It means a lot to me. But before we get going, do you have thoughts on germ theory? Where did it come from? Where did it go? And Cotton Eye Joe and other vaguely racist stuff that I'm very sleepy. My brain is drifting all over the place.
I mean, I don't. I mean, I think like the African cultures kind of figured that out a long time ago. They knew about different bathing and washing their hands, and a lot of them Europeans, I'm sorry, didn't want to bathe and stuff like that.
It's true.
And I don't remember no people's names and stuff, but I do remember that the person who thought about washing your hands, he got like shunned, or they kind of like talked about him and stuff for a long time until they realized he was right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
It's come up a few times in history, for the Bible, for example, talks about washing your hands, but people just did it because God said so until Jesus came along and said, no, never mind that. We have to separate ourselves from the Orthodox Jews and be our own heretical cult, and we're going to do it by not washing our hands.
Yeah, but I remember as a kid, they would say, let me see your hands. Just because they look clean, I mean, they aren't clean. It's bacteria that we don't know about. So all they would tell you was, let me see your hands. And if you don't have no dirt on it, then you was good.
My grandma always wanted to check under my nails because I was always playing in the dirt. I love the dirt. I love the trees. I love the moss. I loved earthworms. I thought they were so fascinating because they're just little tubey little guys.
I used to lift the eyeballs.
Like, how do you do? How is you?
Yeah. It was these big rocks in our yard, and I used to lift them up, and all the bugs would be under there, and I'd be sitting watching the bugs crumb around and stuff.
Yeah. There's so much neat. That was one of the things that ignited that spark of scientific curiosity, is seeing there's so much hidden just out of plain sight. Like pick up a rock and there's a gazillion bugs and you're like, holy shit, there's whole ecosystems under here. There's all these different species living together, doing their different things. And I've just disturbed their entire society. But look at all this cool shit going on under this random rock in the garden, you know? It's so cool. And it made me wonder what else there is, where else there is. In some ways, some of the, shall we say, hard sciences were a little bit disappointing. Like, for example, crystals. I do love crystals. I do love rocks. I love them as geology, but I don't love them in the same way because when you get closer and closer, as you may know, I was into photography for a very long time, and macro photography captured my interest. And one of the things I wanted to do was go smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and see how small I could see. Could I see how many angels were dancing on the head of a pin, for example? And one of the things that I got super close up on was a crystal of salt.
Okay.
It's just a cube. It's just a boring ass cube. There's nothing hidden there. I'm like, oh, that's disappointing. It's pretty neat. Dr. Kip is here saying, no, Ember, there were no heretical Jews at the time of Jesus. There are varieties of expressions of Judaism. Heresy is specifically a later Christian concept that does not apply.
That's good to know.
It's true.
Yeah.
Because I'd been using heresy, and I probably will again in the future because I'm kind of slow sometimes, I must admit.
Yes.
But I had been using heresy as a term meaning roughly anyone who breaks with the religious conventions or declarations or whatever, like the you must wash your hands thing. But it makes sense that it's a Christian thing that doesn't actually apply to other religions. Those damn Christians over what is it? The reverse of cultural appropriation, when you project your culture on everybody else.
Yeah.
Is there a term for that? There needs to be a term for that because that's exactly what happened with gender and so many other things. Speaking English, for example.
No, you're not, Dr. Kip.
Yeah.
Your wisdom and knowledge is really appreciated to me.
Yeah. No, it's all right. I've said more than once that when I'm wrong about something, I want to know it so I can stop being wrong. Some things matter a lot more than other things, but I'm not ungrateful, you know?
Yeah, if I did something wrong, please let me know. And I'm wrong with a lot of things too.
I dare say we all are from time to time. I mean, nobody can be right about everything all the time. The point of science is not to be right about everything all the time. It's to be less wrong as you go along. And that's pretty fucking neat, in my humble opinion. Okay, but you do raise some really, really good points about African medicine, African science. Maya and I once did a show about vaccine hesitancy in the Black community. This was a couple of years ago, so many of you may not even have known about either of us at that time. But TLDR,
I didn't.
Smallpox. Before there were vaccines, there were inoculations, and the people who started the inoculations at the time of the American Revolution. Well, it was slightly before, but it was still a thing when George Washington had his army camped in Valley Forge. He made them take smallpox inoculations. And there was a big old controversy. The reason there was a controversy is because that medical knowledge came from Africa. And all these white colonists were like, we're not doing Black people medicine. That'll contaminate me with Black people essence. Ooh, how wrong. It's like, it'll save your life, you dumb fucker. But that's where that started. That's where I know, shock and surprise, the entire anti-vax movement, all of it is based in racism of hundreds of years ago. I know. No one could have imagined the pseudoscience conspiracy theory was ultimately based on racism. I have a surprise for you folks. All of them are. All of them. They all go back to racism, whether it's against Black people or Jewish people or whatever the case may be. Like, take a flat earther, for example. You only have to scratch the surface before they start spouting blood libel and the protocols of the elders of Zion at you. And the same is true with transphobes. They talk a big game about, all this huge misogyny they have about how women are inherently inferior, which is a weird way to say they're protecting women. But if you engage with them for more than, a minute or two, they'll start spouting off about how it's actually a mind virus perpetuated by the Jews. It's unfucking real how on their sleeve they wear this racism and anti-Semitism and other bigotry. But yeah, I digress. Tangents. That's why we have that emoji.
That's why we have the emoji.
It's important to say because a lot of people don't know, because a lot of people didn't watch that stream.
Yeah.
A couple years ago. So yeah. Okay. But yeah, so we didn't have germ theory at the time of these smallpox inoculations, but we were trying to deal with disease. In fact, we've always been trying to deal with disease. That's a part of civilization. When you bring people together to get them to live in cities, you get disease vectors and physicians trying to deal with that. They didn't do their job for a very long time. The whole you've got ghosts in your blood, you could do cocaine about it, or your humors are out of balance, here's some fresh leeches. They weren't exactly sciencing per se. They were kind of doing the woo-woo thing and saying, I had a vision that if you chew the bark of the white willow, you will feel relief from your suffering. Or something, and some of it worked. White willow bark, of course, being where we get aspirin. So some of it worked, but it wasn't because they scienced their way to it. It was trial and error. It was literally just guessing and trying to note which things were effective. So, with that in mind, let us dig in.
Yes.
This is from the National Museum of Civil War Medicine, which is not the place I would have thought I would have found one of the more informative sources on germ theory. And yet, I think you'll agree, this article has a lot of related things that are very much worth talking about. So, it begins, quote, if Shakespeare had not lived, we would not have to be or not to be. If Einstein had not lived, we might have to wait a few years for equals MC squared. These are the words of Edward Dolnick in his biography of Sir Isaac Newton entitled The Clockwork Universe. And this harkens back to a previous episode in Atheist Advent here, where we talked about how many of the discoveries of science were inevitable. The person who happened to discover them just did it first, but they're discoveries. They're things that we will come across eventually. It's art. It's the creative works that are unique to the individual, not to downplay scientific discoverers. They bring us new knowledge before anybody else. It's like the video game analogy. It's like patch notes. You get the DLC sooner thanks to the discoverers. You don't have to wait longer for it. And that generally makes the world better. But if they didn't do it, someone else would eventually. But art, only Shakespeare could write Shakespeare. Your voice matters because only you can make what only you can make. So Dolnick was not denigrating the work of Albert Einstein, but making a broader statement about the history of science. Science and medicine are often more about discovery than invention. Galileo did not invent heliocentrism, nor did Einstein give light a speed limit. All these scientists revealed perpetual truths about our universe that existed whether humanity was aware of it or not. So you see, we're continuing to build on things we've talked about before.
Yes.
Which is pretty fucking cool. Dolnick's words put us in the right frame of mind to explore the most devastating, unintentional weapon of the Civil War: disease. It has often been said that germ theory didn't exist in the Civil War. That's true, but germs did exist whether humanity acknowledged them or not. Just as the Earth spins around the sun, gravity pulls you to the ground, and the plates of the Earth move under our feet. Bacteria and viruses were present in the 1860s, just as they are now. The issue was that they were not fully understood. As Michael Flannery wrote in his book Civil War Pharmacy, A History of Drugs, Drug Supply, and Provision and Therapeutics for the Union and Confederacy. Holy shit, what a title. Quote, nomenclature then is not the nomenclature now. Virus and bacteria do appear in the primary sources. A virus, however, was not understood as a microbe smaller than a bacterium capable of replicating and causing serious illness, but simply as a poison and perhaps vaguely and non-specifically as an agent for disease transmission. Bacteria were known, but were just one broad group of microscopic animalcule, which is a very archaic term you may have heard in some of your more advanced biology classes where you learned a bit about the history of biology. For a long time, we thought everything was animal, vegetable, or mineral. And so when we discovered bacteria and we saw they could move, we assumed they were very tiny animals. So we called them animalcules.
Oh, that's silly.
The term germ also appears as a contagious agent of disease, but was even less well defined, and the scientific community in America did not yet make the firm connection to it being a form of microbiology. Now, it's worth noting that germ has a lot of meanings, that most of which go back to a root of the thing that grows the thing. Like a germ cell, for example, is something that a sexual organism produces in order to combine with another germ cell to produce a remixed organism with a wholly new, well, not wholly new, but a unique DNA configuration. You can also have germs in a plant sense, like seeds, for example. If they germinate, then they'll grow a new plant, you know? So when they used germ in this sense, they didn't mean a pathogen. They meant the thing that is like the seed of the disease, because there was an understanding that these diseases clearly transmitted from person to person, even if we didn't know how. And it seemed every disease did it slightly differently. Some were through air, some were skin-to-skin contact, various things. And we could establish those for specific diseases, but we didn't pin down what the germ was, what the mechanism for spreading it was.
I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense if you explained it like that. Okay.
Yeah.
I learned so much. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I try. I do my best, even with all my tangents.
Cool.
Although on the topic of washing your hands, my throat's a little dry. So, you know, if you need to learn more about washing your hands, here's some helpful tips. Hey folks, I've been working hard on my health, and so far I've lost over 140 pounds. A huge part of good health is hydration. That's why I'm thrilled to partner with Epic Water Filters. Check this out. Not only can you say goodbye to expensive bottled water, but these filters are made in the US, so no tariffs, and they're made to fit your life. From these lovely pitchers I can fill from, to sink units, to portable filters that fit in your reusable bottle. With Epic, I can refill from nature's water sources and not have to worry about bacteria and whatnot. But also, send back a used filter to be responsibly recycled, and they'll send you a free replacement, saving you and the earth even more. Want to save a ton of money, be healthier, and build a better world? Head to epicwaterfilters.com and enter code EMBER15 at checkout for 15% off. Don't settle for random water. Upgrade to Epic. That's right, folks. Filter's so good, the water you get is so pure, it's holy. Not that nasty bacteria soup you get in churches. This stuff will actually wash away your sins. Get saved.
No E. coli in that water. That's what Mark Lee said.
What's that?
He was talking about the no pure water, no E. coli.
Exactly. Oh goodness. I mean, it's kind of perfect because we're talking about germs and the filters are really effective on bacteria and shit. So it kind of fits. It's nice. Okay. Now I'm a bit more refreshed, so let's get back to it. Through this ignorance of the cause of disease, physicians of the time were incapable of effectively fighting most of them, the diseases. Some diseases were successfully countered through techniques we use today, the smallpox vaccine. Well, not exactly. The smallpox, again, we did inoculations. We didn't have vaccines until later. That's a separate thing, but an inoculation works similar to how a vaccine works, but never mind. Quinine for malaria or bromine for gangrene as examples. But either science couldn't explain why they worked, or the wrong explanation misguided subsequent researchers away from cures for other ailments. And that's one of the big issues in both medicine, science generally, and what we do here, what all of us skeptical folk do. The reason for skepticism is because someone coming up with an explanation isn't good enough, because it could be wrong. And if it's wrong, it can steer people down the wrong path and delay crucial breakthroughs on other stuff. Sometimes it's just philosophy bro stuff and it doesn't really matter, but sometimes it's medical research and people die because you sent people down a woo-woo trail. So skepticism matters. Critical thinking matters because it isn't enough to just have an explanation that accounts for the facts. We want to know if it's true. Truth matters, no matter how much certain people might say that's vile and pathetic. That's another jab at the cultists that have been coming at me this past week, by the by. Dr. Kim says, I'm not necessarily saying that. Oh shit. I am behind on something. Deviant said, so you're saying heresy is a thing only in Christianity? And Dr. Kip replied, I'm not necessarily saying that. What I'm saying is that heresy as a concept cannot be applied to early Judaism, which is largely decentralized and seemingly highly diverse. Okay, that makes sense. I'm trying to reconcile the idea of one central main temple with decentralized Judaism. But considering it had been that way for centuries and centuries, it makes me think of how Christianity today has a whole bunch of different people all doing their own thing effectively. Perhaps something similar applied, like the main temple was a holy site, the same way most evangelicals in the United States think of Jerusalem as a holy site. But they don't really care what the people in Jerusalem have to say. They're still going to do their own thing, kind of thing. Maybe I'm probably mistaken about that too. Kip says there is a strong tendency to read other religions through the lens of modern American or European Christianity. These promote stereotypes. It's true. And Kelly says, be a water slut and buy a filter. Yes. Water slut responsibly. Get protection. This is going to be a thing for a while.
Thank you, AJ, for that.
In fact, I'm gonna add that to my notes right now. If you are a dirty slut for water,
I'm not gonna.
I can't even type. Oh, be a responsible hydro hoe.
Oh, be a hydro hoe.
Oh,
oh man.
all right. I gotta share this. For those of you who haven't seen AJ's short, I have to punch it up now, so y'all get what the fuck I'm saying, or what we're chuckling about. Let me see. Oh, I can't like figure out how to type words, but the fact it's from laughter is wonderful. I appreciate the hell out of that. All right, shorts. Okay, and this one. So now AJ can copyright claim the stream if she really wants to, but we're doing this. All right, share this tab. Make sure the tab is showing, and I'll make it big so y'all can see better. And maybe it'll play.
It's just like I don't mind the joke. What I mind is that news organizations have had to step in and actually fact check it and publish things saying no. Zoran Mamdani is not trying to force your children to learn Arabic. Here's what Arabic numerals are. And it's like, God damn it. God damn, I hate you all. I hate every single one of you. That this is the world we have to live in. They actually have to waste ink making this news story a thing.
I heard that they're gonna start giving children the hydrogen monoxide.
No, not the children.
What?
Yeah, no, that's the stuff to put in jet fuel. Here they've got dihydrogen monoxide is in almost every waterway in the country at this point. They're putting it everywhere.
I know. I heard from a reputable source that every serial killer known to man, known to be a big fan of that stuff.
Yep.
Every day they drink it.
Jokes aside, do you ever think about what a dirty slut for water you are? Because I think about that sometimes. Like it's crazy. Guzzling it down
daily.
It's amazing. It's wonderful. And the irony of being a dirty slut forced the thing that we use to wash dirtiness off. It's delightful. It's delightful. So yeah, that's one of the many wonders over on AJ's channel. Although that specific interview, that panel thing was the Forrest Velkai after show on Neil the 604 Atheist's channel. And we don't get to talk about Neil that much. Neil and Mikey, they host conversations where people who have deconverted or been dealing with all this for their whole lives can come and tell their story and have your voice heard. And they'll interview you for about an hour, and they're very good at it. They've been doing it for many years. They've talked to almost everyone. You just saw Forrest Velkai. They've done name a person you can think of. Honestly, I didn't know they hadn't talked to Forrest yet. But I'm in there, for example. Like there's so many people. And then after the interview part, there's an after show where the guest and them hang out and a few other people join, and it's a nifty time, as you just saw. So make sure you're also subscribed to Neil the 604 Atheist. And if you have a story to tell, bug Neil, because he wants to hear about it. So do the rest of us, honestly. Now, I don't mention the show a lot because it airs at the same time as my weekend debate review, so I really can't make it to the show myself. But it is a good show. It used to be 3 days a week. We're all getting old. The economy's getting hard, so they've had to cut it down, and now it's just Saturdays. But it's a great show, and Neil does great work, and he and Mikey are great fucking people. So make sure you check it out.
I just realized, thank you, I'm muted. February 28th is when I'll be on the show.
Over at Neil's?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So tune in. Watch the rebate every other day. When you watch Neil's show after the fact. But just watch on the 28th live.
The neat thing about these live streams, while they are tons of fun to be here live for, they're still also videos, and you can watch them after the fact too. So go hang out with Kelly and then come and watch the debate review afterward. It'll be fine, I promise.
But usually do the reverse.
I mean, I have to, because I have to be here.
No, I'm saying everybody else do the reverse. Watch your show first and then watch your show second. Only on the 28th of February you watch my show first.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. All right, let's get back to work here. We're halfway through our show. Are we on the right? Okay, I got it back. I did it. Oh yes, and Lego also does Neil build streams. Can you tell I didn't get sleep? I bet you can. Neil also does Lego build streams. God damn it. All right, let's continue. Either science could explain why they were misguided subsequent research. Yes, bad explanations are bad. Disease was responsible for 2/3 of all Civil War deaths. Tragically, if we had only known about germ theory, so many deaths could have been prevented. This was an era of other impressive innovations in medicine. medical evacuation systems, widespread use of anesthetics, and an invaluable surgical experience rightly made American doctors proud of their accomplishments. This confidence, however, led to a rejection of germ theory after the Civil War. For us to address the history of germs, we must define them. The term germ refers to a microorganism that causes disease in this context. These microorganisms, does that mean pregnancy is a disease? Does that mean Shannon Q was right all along and catching a baby is an STD?
I never heard her say that. I
She
mean,
may
I
not
think
have been
that
the
baby's
first
a
to say that.
parasite. It's a parasite. That's what I'm thinking. It's a parasite.
Yeah, it's a damn parasite. It's
Yeah.
not a symbiote. You gain nothing from it except, bruises on your kidneys. I thought people were kidding about that. Nope.
Mm.
Anyway, right. Germ refer to a microorganism that causes disease. These microorganisms can be viruses, bacteria, protozoa, or fungi. And they are not fun guys when they fuck up your shit. Viruses are smaller than bacteria, and by replicating inside their host cells specifically, that's a thing a virus has to do, causes illness. In fact, that's sort of the definitional difference. Like, we can talk about how a bacteria is a living thing and a virus has lost most of its cellular function, so it's just an RNA strand in a protein coat, although that's not true for all viruses, but never mind that. Because of that difference, there's an important functional difference. A bacteria is a separate organism that reproduces itself inside your body. A virus uses your cells to reproduce itself. That's kind of an important difference. The term virus was first used in 1728 to describe something that causes a disease. It wasn't until the 1880s that viruses were identified as microorganisms and linked strongly to germ theory by German Dr. Robert Koch, or Koch. But I'm going to say Koch because it's fun. During the Civil War, the most significant viruses were smallpox and measles. Fucking measles. How dare. This is a smallpox virus, according to the CDC, whenever the hell this was published. Bacteria are single-celled organisms that, unlike viruses, can survive outside the body. The little caveat there. Viruses often can survive outside the body. How long varies considerably. COVID, for example, and most of the SARS family of viruses can survive for around 24 hours, exposed to oxygen on a hard surface, etc. Which is why we wiped down everything like crazy people all the time at the start of the pandemic. Other viruses can last longer. I may be off on this because it's a fuzzy memory, but I believe HIV can last for up to 7 days on a surface. And of course, there's other things that are spread by aerosol when you sneeze. So obviously it can survive outside the body in order to be transmitted. So it's important to note that viruses can often survive outside the body as well. Many are harmless. Others are beneficial. I want to hear about beneficial viruses. That's a topic for another time. Someone remind me. And some are dangerous. Yeah, the ones we hear about are usually the dangerous kind. That's not great. Typhoid was a bacterial infection with a near 33% mortality rate during the Civil War, resulting in 65,000 dead soldiers. Cholera is another
Oh yeah, that's what I was
infection.
thinking about. Yeah.
Cholera?
Yes, I was thinking about cholera.
I don't think about cholera very often. Why were you thinking
Well, I
about
mean,
cholera?
in this discussion, I was thinking about it. Like in this discussion, germs and viruses and stuff. I was thinking about like the Civil War things and stuff like that. I don't think about it nowadays because it's gone.
It still pops up from time to time.
Oh, it does.
I think so. You know what? Let's
didn't
check.
know
Let's
that.
find out.
I didn't know that.
Let's not spread medical misinformation, or Dr. Ben will come for us, and then we'll have to drink Smegnog. Is cholera still around?
But is it smog?
Yes, cholera is still around and experiencing significant global outbreaks, particularly in regions with poor sanitation like parts of Africa, Asia, South Central America. Despite being preventable and treatable, cases surged in 2023 and 2024, straining resources and affecting millions, especially in regions of humanitarian crisis. So basically, us terminating U.S. aid and allowing certain wars to go on and on and on and on and on is creating disease vector disasters. Amazing. Super job, America. Love it.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. God bless America.
So cholera is another bacterial infection that was prevalent at the time and made worse by a worldwide epidemic that spread to America immediately after the war. And that's the thing. Even if you don't give a shit about people in other countries, an epidemic can spread more so today than during the Civil War. And it still happened during the Civil War. So stopping disease everywhere helps you. Damn it, Americans. Why are you so dumb? Okay, there's a cholera from a wiki file. So yeah, that looks like an electron microscope image, which is neat. Protozoa are also one-celled organisms and are spread specifically through water. The deadliest disease of the Civil War, dysentery. We all remember dysentery, don't we? That's a reference to an old video game that many of us old fuckers grew up with.
I've been playing that.
Yeah, you have died of dysentery. Oh, goodness. Where the hell was I? Dysentery came in two forms. Bacillary dysentery and amoebic dysentery. These come from the Shigella, the bacteria, and the entamoeba a protozoa. God damn it. Dysentery was the greatest danger of the Civil War, killing nearly 100,000 soldiers and probably many thousands of civilians. It's hard to say which of the two forms of dysentery was deadlier, as they couldn't be identified at the time, but contaminated water was a major issue in many camps. This is a close view of the entamoeba protozoa thingy. I'm not sure why it seems to have 4 nucleuses. That's probably because it's just very fucking rude. Fungi are multi-celled organisms, and many are harmless. Some are quite tasty, but not all of them. I don't know of any specific fungal infections that were a major issue during the Civil War, but again, they could have been present without anyone knowing. Well, that's not very good scholarship. First of all, I don't know statements shouldn't be in this kind of article. I know I'm getting pedantic about the writing again. But
Yeah.
second, saying I don't know this was an issue doesn't mean it isn't good scholarship. Holy shit. And also, pretty sure we can find cases of what's now called athlete's foot in the records from the Civil War. Maybe they called it something else. But the odds are high it was present, because it always is in the military. Any military. It's always there. So this is a histology slide of a fungal infection of bone marrow. Ooh, that's rude. Getting in the bones. In the bones, you say. Holy crow. This brings us to another point about the Civil War and germ theory. We often separate infections from battlefield wounds when reckoning the ways the soldiers died. But any and all germ types, viruses, bacteria, protozoa, and fungi, may have contributed to the rate of gangrene that followed wounding. Why, yes, your flesh rotting usually means there's something decomposing it. This could be introduced by the environment in which the soldier was wounded, or by the invasive operations performed by physicians in the war, especially amputation. Germ significantly increased death from battlefield wounds at the same time they were killing in the peaceful camps and cities around America. Without germ theory, physicians struggled to explain and treat disease. The dominant theory at the time, though increasingly questioned and doubted by the 1860s, was that of miasma. The theory of miasma held that noxious or poisonous clouds of air cause disease. This is where malaria gets its name. Mal meaning bad, and area meaning air. It's super creative. Bad air, malaria. Yes. This was a truly ancient theory, and doubts around miasma dated to antiquity. Thucydides observed an epidemic outbreak, possibly of smallpox, in Athens during the Peloponnesian War around 430 BCE, and through his observations recognized contagiousness of the pathogen. Contagiousness is important because it was linked to infected individuals rather than to environmental factors, as the miasma theory of the time would argue. As Aunt Jer says, wash your fucking hands. With sources, even. So there. Oh, goodness. Get back there. Get back there. I have so many windows, folks. Right. And The Plague in the Ancient City, a painting from 1652-ish. And yeah. It defies coincidence that while there are always plague outbreaks, disease outbreaks, something, every time there's a war, disease immediately follows. It can't be coincidence, right? So even the pre-science philosophers were like, there's something going on here. Unfortunately for Thucydides and many others through the subsequent millennia, questioning a prevailing theory isn't enough if you don't have another explanation. Thucydides speculated that the disease was a liquid, but the technology of ancient Athens was not advanced enough to equip him with the knowledge of microbiology. A major advancement came in the 17th century. The development of the microscope for the first time allowed scientists to explore the unseen world. Magic, far vision, or near vision, or small vision, or whatever. In the 1640s and 50s, a German Jesuit priest named Athanasius Kircher identified microorganisms in the blood of infected patients and appears to have been the first to directly link the presence of microorganisms to the cause of disease. Various scientists in subsequent centuries also advanced this theory, but it did not gain traction until the 19th century. Many of these scientists recognized the link between the prevention of disease and its cause. Among the most prominent of these was Austrian doctor Ignaz Semmelweis. In 1847, Semmelweis instituted a form of antiseptic procedures that reduced mortality at the Vienna General Hospital from 18% to less than 3%. Remember, for a very long time, folks, people went to hospitals to die. You were so sick that you were probably dead, and you were taking a chance the doctors might cure you, or they might kill you in a different way. But you're at the end of your rope. You're going to die without intervention, so you take a chance. 18% mortality rate. 1 in 5. You're playing Russian roulette. But if you're dead anyway,
it doesn't matter.
3%, though, hell of an improvement. His methods were nonetheless rejected by the medical community at large, in part because he couldn't articulate the reasons why his methods were successful. As early as 1849, now we're starting to get into the modern era. Because again, we had some idea the things were there, we just didn't know what they were, or how to call them, or how to deal with them, because we lacked the technology. So now, 1849, the English physician, John Snow, did actually know something. Go figure. He was advancing germ theory, specifically to combat cholera. 5 years later, he effectively proved his theory by successfully ending a cholera outbreak in Soho by identifying its cause as the now famous Broad Street pump. So back in the day, cities had wells and shit before we rediscovered the long-lost technology of indoor plumbing. Thanks, Dark Ages. So instead of having like a well where you drop a bucket, the cities would put together pumps and shit. And they'd often have pipes running between the different water sources so that they could share water across spaces, but sometimes it was still just a single well. And if a single well got contaminated, everyone who got water out of that well got sick. And so it was fairly easy to pin the vector of this disease outbreak, to find where it came from and then prove that's where it came from. You find it's cholera, you find it came from here, you wipe out the cholera infecting this thing, and suddenly no one's getting sick anymore. Boom, you have proved your hypothesis.
That's when we was talking about the cholera and stuff, and then I'm going off a little side, but it's relevant to this. And so I started thinking about a lot like the nursery rhymes that we sang. I'm thinking about Ring Around a Rosie. And then we realized that it's from the Black Plague. And that kind of got me on thinking about that, and that's germs being not cleaning and stuff like that. It caused it killed like a third of the European population or something like that, I think, at that time. If I'm not mistaken.
Around a third. And which was one of the things that led to the Renaissance, which again.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
Most of the stuff would have happened anyway, inevitably. Okay. It's just the factors came together to create the specific timing. Okay. And in some ways, the timing was crucial to produce the art, which isn't inevitable.
So wash your hands, people.
It's true.
And
Jesus
don't throw your trash.
Yeah, don't get your water from a cursed well. That's not a great plan.
If you're gonna be a dirty slough of water, be protected.
Code Ember 15, epicwaterfilters.com. Holy shit. This was a pattern. Oh, I need to make it big again, don't I? So people can see what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. This was a pattern that would persist through the next few decades. Compelling evidence from throughout Europe was piling up, but they were not yet gathered into a comprehensive and well-tested theory. Perhaps more importantly, because remember, in science, a theory is a collection of facts and hypotheses that have passed at least a couple of rounds of attempts at knocking them down. Confirmation, for lack of a better term. A theory is a model under which all these facts make sense together. As Forrest often says, all theories are wrong, all models are wrong, but some of them are useful. So we didn't yet have a theory. Perhaps more importantly, the implications were enormous and terrifying. Doctors would have to reconcile the fact by their ignorance they were spreading contagions and were themselves the cause of countless patients' deaths. And that's an issue with dealing with humans, right? Because humans don't want to feel like they caused harm through their ignorance because they feel personally responsible. Now, as Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. In a way, we need to be able to forgive ourselves and say, I didn't know better. Now I do, and I will do better going forward, and not like hold ourselves guilty for the things we didn't know and couldn't have done better. Because that kind of guilt makes us not want to accept the knowledge that can help us do better, causing us to now knowingly cause more harm through our own prideful refusal to admit we fucked up. Just own it and do better. It's fine.
The sad thing is that even though now that people have the documentation and the proof that things happen, they still don't want to change their ideology of what they was raised in thought process. Like they know that vaccines work, but they don't care because of some
I feel like
pseudoscience person is putting up propaganda in their head and they believe in them instead of the facts.
as I've said before, the planet is overpopulated. It just is, right? Like our population was stable for a few hundred years at around 1.25 billion. And then suddenly we discovered industrial production of fertilizer by pulling nitrogen out of the atmosphere. It relies on one specific industrial process. And if we lose the capacity to do that industrial process, if we lose the few factories doing that in, like, say, a bombing campaign from a world war, 7/8 of the planet is going to starve, because that's how we produce this much food. I mean, hell, half the planet is already starving constantly. Yay, capitalism. When a population becomes overpopulated, and there's a mechanism we don't understand yet that causes a certain part of the population to become self-destructive in order to get the population back down to a sustainable level. We don't know how it works or why it works, but we observe it over and over and over again in rat populations, in rabbit populations, in wildlife clusters, in major predators, in great ape groups. Now, most of the time when you start to get that population pressure, the group will split. They'll form two smaller groups that are more sustainable, and they'll go their separate ways. But we can't do that because we have infiltrated every nook and corner of this fucking planet. There's nowhere else to split to. So I have a very strong suspicion that because we're so tremendously overpopulated, that population pressure, it's triggering that self-destruct response within a certain percentage of the species. And that's why, at least it's part of why people are more susceptible to intentional dumb fuckery for apparently the purpose of cruelty and nothing else. They know vaccines save lives, but they're still promoting anti-vax nonsense to the detriment of their own children, apparently just to see as many people suffer as they can, even if it's their own children. That's not helpful. That's not sane. It doesn't make sense to me, except in that frame of the overpopulation response towards self-destructiveness. The cruelty is just the excuse. They're saying, I'm just a horrible person, but the reason they're doing it is because there's some biological trigger we haven't nailed down. Now, I'm hypothesizing. This is not at all theory, but holy shit, it doesn't make any damn sense. Why are humans trying so hard to destroy themselves? I don't know. It's an oof. But we have more germs to talk about.
I mean, when we talked about the racism part of it, a lot of them, rather, they looking at destroying somebody else, but it's going to destroy them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sad thing about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always been a part of self-destructiveness to human nature, like the ancient parable about the scorpion and the toad trying to cross the river, or what, tortoise, turtle, whatever, frog, right? If you're not familiar, basically a scorpion needs to get across a river, and there's a frog, and the scorpion says, "Hey, will you give me a lift across the river?" And the frog goes, "No, because halfway across you'll sting me, and then I'll drown, and then you'll die, but you'll do it." And the scorpion's like, "No, of course I wouldn't do that, because after you drown, I would drown. That would be self-destructive. I would never do that." And the frog's like, "Okay, bestie, that makes sense. Hop on." And so they go across the river, and about halfway across, the scorpion stings the frog. And the frog says, "Why did you do that? Now I'm going to drown, and then you're going to drown." And the scorpion just shrugged and went, "It's my nature. It doesn't matter if they destroy themselves. It's their nature."
I heard something about that, but it was a crocodile and another animal. But it was the same kind of story, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly.
And I don't understand why some people are like that. I don't know. In any case, enough wanton speculation from me. It would require a complete restructuring of medical malpractice, a huge public awareness campaign, and a political will to action if it were all true. And that's a problem of a bureaucratized civilization, is you reach a point where you can't just make a discovery and spread it through the peer-reviewed literature. You have to also convince the public and also convince the politicians. Holy shit. It is understandable that doctors and the public at large were wary, but every year that passed without change saw countless more unnecessary deaths. Dun, 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 cliffhanger, but not to worry, we have part 2. Ta-da! In late antebellum America, early forms of hygienic practice, if not germ theory, were starting to gain traction in small circles. Dr. Thomas Dent Mutter, a renowned surgeon and professor at Jefferson Medical College, was an early proponent and advocate for cleanliness, which seems outrageous to suggest now, but was a big deal at the time, because these doctors, they were dealing with blood and guts all the time, and they're like, why are we mopping the floors? We're just going to get blood and guts over it again. And that, but some doctors were like, maybe because of disease. Like, we don't know about viruses yet, bestie. But holy shit, we don't want diseased bits from one patient getting into healthy bits from another patient. Duh. Even cooks know about cross-contamination. So Mutter's evangelization of hygienic practices directly translated to saving lives well after his death amid the Civil War. Colonel, I don't know why Americans pronounce it Colonel, but whatever, Daniel Liesier commanded the 100th Pennsylvania Infantry throughout all 4 years of the conflict. They saw heavy service and lost 224 of their officers and men in combat. You could have just said men, because, like, are the officers women? You know what? We don't have time. By contrast, they only lost 185 people to disease. Less than they lost in combat. Okay. One of the main reasons for this low death toll, relatively low death toll, was that Colonel Liesier was a trained physician. Ooh, an officer and a gentleman. More important than his degree, he trained under Dr. Mutter. Liesier emphasized a hygienic camp and undoubtedly saved many of his soldiers' lives. And that is an important thing, not only for physicians, but for officers. So many people put this tremendous emphasis on what it takes to be an officer. You have to have more courage and more strength and more bravery and more broad intellect and knowledge of strategy and tactics and all this other stuff. And those things are helpful, but they're helpful for one purpose: keeping your men alive. That's an officer's primary job, is keep your men alive, because you can't do anything else if your unit gets wiped out. Having all this other knowledge, people think of it as like ways to win battles. No, it's ways to survive battles. Sometimes the best way to do that is to win. But the point is not the winning, it's the not dying. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Iris DC says it comes from Spanish when armies were organized into columns. So a colonel would be a column. No, a head of a column, I guess. Something like that. I can see where that might play together, something like that. In a similarly illustrative case, Dr. Middletown Goldsmith experimented with a form of disinfectant during his service with the Army of the Cumberland. Mortality rates from hospital gangrene were very high, over 40%, through most of the Civil War. When Dr. Goldsmith applied bromine to gangrenous wounds, the mortality dropped to below 3%. The treatment was much heralded at the time, and the medical department published his findings in 1863, encouraging the adoption of bromine across the Union. Even with this success, Dr. Goldsmith struggled to explain how it worked. You can find a copy of this book on display in whatever our Frederick location means, the National Museum of Civil War Medicine, I guess. And this is an image from the Medical and Surgical History of the War of Rebellion, Volume 2, page 739. Unfortunately, most officials were not careful about cleanliness. Army camps were often filthy and hospitals were not antiseptic. Dr. Silas Trowbridge recalled 2 weeks of continuous operations. Quote, "Our clothes were a gore of blood and our hands so continuously in it that for most of the time they were crisped and wrinkled like a washerwoman's after a day's labors in her suds." Weird way to describe that, but okay. This is not to say that all medical facilities were disgusting. Oh no, disgusting is far too mild a word. We don't have time for that. General hospitals in cities far behind the lines and where the focus was on recovery rather than immediate and time-sensitive operations could afford to take their time and maintain a more sanitary environment. In the 1862 Hospital Steward's Manual by Dr. J.J. Woodward, there are nearly 40 references to cleanliness, including eating utensils, pharmaceutical supplies, bed sheets, floors, and practically everything else. This includes detailed instructions on how to clean and sharpen surgical tools. Yeah, you think sharing needles is bad? Try sharing unclean scalpels. Oof. Apparently that's Dr. Woodward. But cleanliness is not the same thing as being antiseptic. In explaining why it was important for the tools to be cleaned, Woodward stated that it was because they would become unfit for service if not maintained. He does not make any connection between the cleanliness of the tools and the possibility of spreading disease. It should be noted, often new ideas are phrased in a way that people of the time will understand, so you can get them to do the thing they need to do rather than argue with them over why they need to do it. You know, and especially in military settings. You know, so it makes sense that a person would say it will become unfit for service without teaching you about germ theory. Just do the thing I told you to do. You can learn about it at leisure later, you know? At that, Woodward instructs that the stewards should clean the tools with tepid water, since hot water could damage the handles, porous wooden handles that could cradle germs. As you probably know, hot water is far better for disinfecting. The steward wasn't allowed to clean the tools until after the surgeon has done with them, and so the same tools may have been used for multiple procedures on different patients before they were cleaned. That's an oof. The consequences of these understandable failures did motivate some surgeons to immediately adopt antisepsis as soon as it was articulated in Europe. Dr. George Derby, surgeon of the 23rd Massachusetts, argued that the casualties of the war proved the value of hygiene. Death by disease, he wrote, quote, was the direct and logical consequence of the rules of hygienic science as applied to war. For most other surgeons, however, it was the scale of death in the Civil War and the implication that the surgeons themselves were significant contributors to it that slowed American acceptance of germ theory. In 1869, only 4 years after the conclusion of the Civil War, Scottish physician Dr. Joseph Lister, yes, that Lister, published his paper proposing the first truly popular modern germ theory, building on research conducted by Frenchman Louis Pasteur that began around 1860. Notice, we've come all this way into understanding how people came to wrap their mind around the concept of germs without once mentioning Pasteur. This goes back to what we were saying at the front of the article and what we've been saying through all of these episodes. Discovery is inevitable. The discoverers should be honored for being the ones to bring us these new flames of knowledge, these new fruits of wisdom. But they didn't make the things exist. And so their discovery would be inevitable. They just brought it to us first and consequently potentially saved many lives. That's Dr. Lister, apparently. Some American doctors embraced the theory that the practice of antisepsis that it required, including Dr. Woodward. Many were dead set against it. American surgeons, with the experience that came with arguably the greatest healthcare crisis in the nation's history, were confident, and rightly so. Their use of chloroform and ether as an antiseptic agent, perfection of amputation, and professionalization were undeniably important to medical innovation. Our surgeons were perhaps the best in the world. The idea that they were killing their patients, that they were ignorant, and that upstart Europeans could tell them how to run their hospitals with risky and seemingly unproven techniques was wildly unpopular. pride, ego, and killing more people needlessly when you're trying to save them. Sadly, we still do that today, too. Ask me how I know. Don't actually, we don't have time. Dr. Henry Jacob Bigelow, head surgeon of Massachusetts General Hospital, banned antisepsis and declared it medical hocus pocus. Now, in fairness, we often say we need more skepticism, particularly when it comes to medicine. A person is right to question, but that means questioning. That means looking into a thing, not just saying, I don't like it, I'm not even going to look. You know, you can't just dismiss shit without investigating. You can say, I'm suspending judgment until I have more information, but you can't say the thing is woo-woo until you've looked, you know? This was the same hospital where the first operation under ether was performed, a very different turn from their innovative push only 20 years before. To his credit, Dr. Lister crossed the Atlantic to deliver a lecture to a hostile American audience. Aren't we always so very fucking hostile? Hostile is kind of the opposite of hospital when you get down to it. It's a thing. Miranda says Dr. Lister was another hero. His colleagues also hated him for telling them they were dirty, but he loved using a microscope, so he was able to explain and prove his point. Fuck yeah. And also microscopes are cool. I'm having a mental tangent, but we don't have time. In 1876, veteran surgeons of the Civil War, still grappling with traumatic memories of their blood-covered hands, were unlikely to listen. One surgeon told Dr. Lister to his face that he had, quote, a grasshopper in his head. Samuel D. Gross, renowned Army surgeon and author of the 1861 Manual of Military Surgery, spoke in the wake of Lister's lecture. Quote, little, if any, faith is placed by any enlightened or experienced surgeon on this side of the Atlantic in the so-called treatment of Professor Lister. So they didn't even listen to him. They just went, oh, he's a European. He's got his nose in the air. No one listened to him. No faith. But you don't need faith if you've got science, do you? That's sort of the whole point. Unfortunately, we were also in the midst of the Enlightenment, so people weren't thinking critically very well at the time. Our own, by which I presume he means the United States' own, Jake Wynn argues that it wasn't until the death of President Garfield in 1881 that the American public and physicians began to turn toward germ theory. His slow and painful descent from an assassination attempt was well documented and publicized at the time. Americans read in their daily papers about the lingering and avoidable pain that Garfield had suffered from infection. Now, because our public schools are truly fucking terrible, you may have learned that Garfield was assassinated. That's half true. Garfield was injured by an assassin. His doctors killed him while trying to treat him for being shot. If left to his own devices, he would have survived. The bullet was still in him, but it didn't kill him. He lingered for days, if not weeks. It was the infection of the physicians treating him that killed him because they poked their fingers in his open wound without washing. They infected him with all sorts of nonsense. Enough that it overwhelmed his immune system in a body that was already traumatized from being fucking shot. And he died. It wasn't the assassins that killed him. It was his doctors. For more than 2 months, the public got continuous updates about the president's condition, and countervailing voices advocating antiseptic practices grew louder. Garfield, himself a veteran, was, in the words of Jake Wynn, the last victim of Civil War medicine. When it takes killing the damn president before people listen. This was also the time of rising physicians without the same blood on their hands. Newly graduating medical students who had not served in the Civil War benefited both from the innovations made by military surgeons during the conflict and a willingness to test and utilize European antiseptic procedures, plans, protocols, whatever. And that's an important thing in science as well. And it's a damn shame, but it's the way humans work. Is often the defenders of an old paradigm will not be convinced by new evidence. Richard Dawkins, for example. No amount of evidence will change that man's mind. People of his group will go to their grave screaming about things that are demonstrably not true, rather than admit they may have been mistaken and still had more to learn. It takes a new generation who doesn't have all those preconceptions and biases baked in to question things and go, oh, yeah, this is obviously true, and those guys are wrong, and then the paradigm shifts. It happens all the damn time. We have to let the old live to death before we can do better. And in sciences, it holds us back. But in medicine, it fucking kills people. It's very, very shameful. I wish humans could do better, especially the ones who consider themselves educators. During the 1880s, Dr. Koch, I'm still going to pronounce it that way, forwarded his own well-articulated germ theory, one that was more accepted within the international community. This combination made the young American surgeons the best equipped generation of physicians the nation had ever seen, and slowly the country turned and accepted the scientific truth. And it's such a shame we always have to do that. We had to do it with the smallpox vaccine. We had to do it with antiseptic practices and germ theory generally. No, you don't have to have both. You could institute the antiseptic practices and not understand a damn thing about germ theory. If you take the steps to keep people from getting sick, it doesn't matter if you subscribe to the model that describes why it works, you know? But whatever. So in the end, the Civil War proved a major setback to germ theory in America. The conflict unified the American medical community of the time around their remarkable innovation and enviable skill. But by spreading disease and infections that they were not aware of, the war made American physicians largely unwilling to accept their own role or to listen to outsiders who had not experienced the unimaginable trauma they lived through. The lessons for today are pretty clear, and thankfully, the world's medical community has learned from it. Some of them. 2/3 of all deaths in the Civil War came as a result of disease. Knowledge of germ theory now enables organizations like the World Health Organization, WHO, established in 1948 to prevent hundreds of thousands of deaths from disease seen in the Civil War. Other entities, like the United States' Center for Disease Control, or CDC, used to work to prevent the spread of disease both within the US and abroad by encouraging international learning and cooperation. The National Institute of Health used to share scientific research from around the globe with American medical professionals. And the folks at the National Museum of Civil War Medicine are proud to facilitate this dialogue and look forward to continuing it with you when you visit. Because ultimately, it is an ad. Yay, capitalism. But good news, folks. We finished another one. And we did it on time. Look at that. Go us.
Cool. Learned so much, as I said earlier.
Yeah,
I was
there's
just, listening, learning. I can only put some nice little added details in it, but
well, that's one of the reasons that I enjoy doing these, because while my knowledge is far from expertise in a lot of these subjects we're covering, I have a broad base of knowledge that lets me bring relevant things that aren't covered in the article into the subject for discussion. And I find that pretty neat. But also, it just the reason we do these, the fact, and there are a million other places you can learn about germ theory, what it is, and blowing smoke up Pasteur's ass. And don't get me wrong, Pasteur was a great scientist and did some really cool shit. But there's a lot more to it than just how big Pasteur's brain is, you know? and spending all our time on that misses all this important stuff that we talked about today. And that's one of the reasons I really, really enjoy doing these shows, because we get to go into the areas that never get talked about, because everyone's just repeating the same main story about, look how great this one avatar of a certain discovery is, whether it's Einstein or Pasteur or Newton or whatever. We never get past the ego of a dead man to find out all the other important stuff, you know? And that's not to take anything away from Pasteur, just that there's more that we never get to dig into. And we're doing that here. And I love it. And I thank you all so much for being here for it.
Yes. Right after 1 o'clock, I'm having my first alternative faith discussion on my channel. So I'll be talking to Heather Foy, the Celtic priestess.
Hell yeah. And also, I noticed you said Celtic, and I appreciate the improved pronunciation.
I try. My kids be getting them. That's not how you say it.
Yeah. I'm, as you know, I'm half Irish and half Welsh and half Scottish, all Celtic. And I very much appreciate referring to my people by their chosen
It's just
name.
embedded with how we were taught to say it so many years. And so you kind of, because a lot of things
I know it's
you
because
say wrong.
Boston has that basketball team that everyone mispronounces, and so everyone sees it spelled the same way. It was the Celtics, but Americans don't like to learn how things are pronounced, and so for over 100 years, people have been saying Celtics, and everyone just assumes that's the correct pronunciation.
Yeah.
It's an oof. But Andrew requested that we end on a lesson in proper hand washing. So we've got the poster that she linked. I will make it big so we can see it more correctly. In fact, I will make it bigger in here. How to wash hands. Wash hands when visibly soiled. Otherwise, use hand rub. Now, I would say just wash your hands. Like, sanitizer is fine, but it doesn't get dirt off. It kills 99% of whatever, but it doesn't kill the other whatevers. Like, just wash your hands. It's simpler. It's better. Sanitizer is fine if there's nowhere to wash your hands at, but if you can wash your hands, just wash your hands. So this thing recommends 40 to 60 seconds. Step 0, wet hands with water. I don't like that. If that's the first thing you do, that's step 1. Whatever. Wet your hands with water. Then apply enough soap to cover all hand surfaces. Rub hands palm to palm, and then, oh, this is precise. Right palm over left dorsum with interlaced fingers. Get in those cracks. Get in there real good. And then palm to palm with fingers interlaced, and then backs of fingers to opposing palms with fingers interlocked. Oh, I see. To get into the palms. Okay. And then rotational rubbing of thumb clasped in right palm and vice versa. And then rotational rubbing backwards and forward. This is really it. Okay. I guess it's to like get into these cracks where crap can be.
Yeah, we have to do all this.
There may be a joke in here somewhere, because this is way more involved than any I've ever seen before. It's fine. Yeah. But yeah, get all the nooks and crannies. Like, do all the different, because a lot of people just go scrub, done. Like, no, you have to wash your hands.
You have to sing the happy birthday song. That's what they said is the kind of the time limit you're supposed to go through the process. That's like long. That's like the song you know in your head, sing that. And that's how long you should be washing your hands.
I can think of a lot of songs that would just whatever.
Yeah, it don't matter. Long as it's just that variation of time.
Like, I don't even like the singing paradigm, because it's like a distraction. It's a disassociation. Like, it takes 30 seconds, give or take 10 seconds. Focus on the task instead of trying to distract yourself and pass the time, so that you can get all the get into all those nooks and crannies. Don't just distract yourself and just rub your hands for a period of time, like, just do it. So after the washy bits, rinse your hands with water, Dry your hands thoroughly with a single-use towel. Reusable towels are fine if you're at home or something where you can wash them yourself and make sure they're clean. If you're in a public place, a lot of bathrooms still have those standing towels on the rolly things. Not the best. Single-use towel is safer. Use the towel to turn off the faucet. This is an important one because you had filthy hands when you turned it on. So you touch it again, you get the filth right back on your hands. I also, because I'm a paranoid person, even before the plague, I would also use the towel to open the door to the bathroom because I know a lot of people don't wash their hands. So I'd use the towel for that too, and then throw it out in the bin right next to the exit or on the other side of the exit, whatever. But then once you've done all that, your hands are now safe, and clean lives save hands. Save lives, clean your hands, says the WHO. All right.
Thank you, Edgy. That we needed that.
Hell yeah. Aunt Jer says, I sing Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's a long song too. Make sure your hands is clean. But this is a good thing though.
One by Land says sing Freebird. So for anybody who doesn't know, Freebird is it's like an 8-minute song. It used to be when I was a DJ when I was younger, and when you have to DJ by yourself, you need to have certain songs picked out so that you can run for bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
Freebird was one of my go-tos because it was long enough I could get to the bathroom and back.
What didn't you do? You just
very little. I was a very busy being when I was younger. I mean, oh my goodness. So when I was a DJ, I was also working at US Relay, the relay service for the deaf and hard of hearing, where you would be the ears for a deaf person, and then you'd type back and forth to the deaf person and then talk what they wrote to the hearing person. So I did that. The hours varied a little, but let's say first shift. Second shift, I worked at Sears. Third shift, I worked overnight stocking at Target. And then I went back to Relay. I just didn't sleep. And then on the weekends, I had the bowling alley job, and there was another one I did because the bowling alley was like a combination DJ thing and tending to the machines thing. But also I would do gig DJing, occasional weddings and parties. And there was another thing I did during the day, but I can't quite remember it now. I literally just worked all the time because I had to. Because even then the economy required like 3 full-time incomes to pay basic rent, and I was the only income. So fuck me, right?
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that, but yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, on that happy note, that makes me think about how things are now, and I don't like that. Because things are not great now. Before I go, Miranda, I saw you in the chat. I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but I did finish the book, and I had thoughts. And if you want to see the thoughts, they're at the beginning of the episode. But maybe you were here for it, and I just didn't notice. It's fine. But I wanted to let you know they're there in case you didn't see them. So, yeah. Inter says Ember's tax return form must have been a nightmare. I had to learn accounting. Like, I couldn't even get H&R Block wouldn't touch it. I had to learn accounting. Fortunately, I wasn't a billionaire with a zillion different corporations I was hiding my money in, so it wasn't that complicated. It was just a bunch of W-2s, like a lot of them, and various expenses. Some of the jobs had fuel expense. It's a whole thing. Anyway, now I know how to wash my hands when I do surgery. That's right. The next time you do surgery, you'll be all set. Now you just got to learn how to do surgery. I mean, I'm assuming you don't. Technically, anyone can do surgery once. But yeah. All right. That's going to do it for this time, folks. Thank you all so much for joining us. Tomorrow we have bias. Right. Tonight I'm planning to do adult Bible study. It's been on Friday the last couple of weeks. I want to try a different day because there's a lot going on Friday. So we'll try it tonight. We'll see what happens. What could possibly go wrong? Tomorrow, member stream for the bonus show. And then
Okay.
Friday, I may or may not. Again, all bonus shows are subject to change, but something may happen on Friday because it's based on my time and my ability and my spoons and all those things. But on this show for Atheist Advent, the psychology of bias is tomorrow's topic. Friday is rejecting pseudoscience. You can see how these things all tie together. We're still weaving our threads all the way through the month. And then next week we're back with language, how language shapes thought. Okay. Because we've run into this issue a few times. The way we think of words restrains the form of the ideas we're considering. Like even on this episode, what germ means changes your perspective based on how you're thinking about it. So subscribe if you haven't. Ring the bell to join us in a live stream if you're watching in the future. Hello, future people. We would love to see you in the live chat, and click all the other buttons while you're down there too, because it helps. Every button helps. I appreciate it very much. I think that's all the things I need to say. It might be. If not, I'll remember on a different show. There's plenty of things, plenty of time, and we are already over. So have yourselves a lovely day. We're more than halfway through the month to Yule. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves because this can be a stressful time. And as always, remember, you don't have to dismiss better science for your own fucking pride because you are better than, well, I mean, a lot of things. But let's go with the typical one and say religion. Toodles. Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for November. Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkisson, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Lilith, Ember Lynn, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Godless Engineer, Jester, Lil of All Trades, Deviant Outcast, Kelly King, the Detroit Atheist Queen, The Mighty Filbert, and Secular Phalanist. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember, or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which also includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, member-only live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you all so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.
Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now.